You know, I marvel at the fact that the news, if you want to call it that, there is no news, that if you're following the ongoing developments in the Middle East with regards to the US attack on Iran, with the implications being what they are involving Israel, involving now the United Nations meeting, several ancillary situations taking place. Yet here in the Bay Area, it's basically nothing. Nothing. Not that you would, you know the drill. There's no news here to even imagine, to even look and decipher and to try to get a feel for. And usually they used to have some news. Maybe they'd send a reporter to the Israeli delegate, um, consulate was what I was trying to say. The mission. We don't have formal relations with Iran, of course, since 1979 when they, took our people from the embassy. But that's just a point that if you look around, you look at SF Gate, which is a joke. I've stated it many. It's the internet version of the San Francisco Chronicle. Now, folks, if you want to know the best cheeseburger, if you want to know the fact that a lot of the International House of Pancakes are closing, including one big one in San Francisco, your go-to, including the best burrito in the Mission, even though there's, kind of things taking place, a little bitty thing taking place in the Middle East still, then go to SFK. SanFranciscoChronicle.com. Are you kidding me? It's a joke. We're in the Bay Area, fourth largest media market for radio, even though we don't have radio. Sixth for television. And what is television? Absolute waste of time. Nothing, nothing, and nothing. And you might say, well, what are they going to do? That's just my point. What are they going to do? They're not going to do nothing because they have nothing. And even when they had something, they don't utilize anything. And look, folks, they do have reporters around. They still look for these stupid stories that they can get via Bay City News. They'll go talk about the Giants game taking place today. That kind of stuff, that superfluous kind of stuff that in light of what's taking place, for God's sakes, in the world, which has an effect on all of us, nothing. And considering that we are in a region right near Silicon Valley, right? Silicon Valley, the center plate of our technology revolution and the fact of all the chips and all the computer companies, nothing. And certainly there are ramifications there. The home, the birthplace of rights, right? Civil rights and free speech. Mario Savio, UC Berkeley. Oh, I'm sure if you go to Berkeley, even though school's out of session, you'll see the obligatory Israel sucks. Israel's committing genocide. The United States is this and that. You know what? Think for a minute. The United States, and I'm not Mr. Rah, US, love it or leave it. Think about this. They staged this unbelievable attack on 3 nuclear facilities, one key one, Fordo, in Iran. And by all accounts, nobody was killed. Now, they certainly disrupted and obliterated these nuclear sites, Nobody was killed. They went after a military target. They flew back. I mean, if you listen to the eyewitness accounts by various people, it was, in a kind of a sick sense of the word, majestic. I'm not going to get into that aspect, but if you want to get news on what's taking place, you could go to the BBC, even though they're kind of slanted one way also. The United Nations, I just indicated, has met in a session right now, and the usual predictable actors like the Soviet Union used to be now is Russia and Korea. Boy, that's a joke. North Korea. They haven't condemned the U.S., but they highlighted the fact of U.S. aggression. Yeah. But the UN is meeting now. I'm sure they're very, very objective. I'm sure they've never condemned Israel in the past 50 years. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe they did when they put back in 1976 that proclamation that Zionism was racism. So I'm sure they're very objective. And Iran has called for sanctions against the United States. This while they're threatening to use force in some manner, perhaps a terrorist attack in which they can kill more civilians and people and bomb a old lady's home for the aged like they did in Tel Aviv. To get that news, you got to go online. And to go online, if you want to see really the heart and soul of what's taking place, you got to go to AP or Reuters. Or, granted, it is sort of, very much has its own agenda. I went to Al Jazeera and I got the predictable dose of anti US, anti Israel. They called them Al Jazeera, the Arab CNN. And, it's funny, not funny, but it's kind of intriguing, shall we say, and unique. The Arab world, have you noticed? It's quite out there. And again, you're not going to get this information in the Bay Area because there's no news in the Bay Area. We have like idiots running the show here. We do, quote me, idiots. Arab world is not that crazy about vilifying and condemning the United States or even Israel. Why? Because the Arab world, by and large, is anti-Iran. Because Iran is not Arab, they're Persian. And quietly, and maybe not too long in the future, publicly, the Arab world is ecstatic that this took place. Saudi Arabia, ecstatic. Jordan, ecstatic. Egypt, happy. Relieved. Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Dubai. I can go on and on and on. The only people that seem to be angry, the only people that seem to be upset are the proxies that Iran controls, like the so-called Houthis and the various radical regimes in outer Africa, which are anti-US by nature, anti-Israel by nature. So the information stream is out there, but you don't get it here in the Bay Area. I went on a few local sites here, and you have that sfist.com. Nothing. All they do, they're an aggregator site, folks. They're more interested in certain things that nobody really gives a damn, like the North Beach Fair or the Union Street Fair, or where do you get, speaking of burritos, a good burrito in Calholla. They take stuff from the Chronicle, which shows you how ridiculous SFist is. They have their whole mindset on shit that has nothing to do with the news. And oh, by the way, yeah, I can see through it. Many others have pointed out to me. I agree. I know it's not even a matter of agreeing or disagreeing. Their coverage is so blatantly anti America, anti Israel, mostly anti Israel. Yet Israel had no part in this. Oh, they would have loved and did love the fact that the United States did what they did. They didn't demand that the US do this. Had Israel been had put in a situation where they had to do this by themselves, it would have been a lot more cumbersome. Of course it would have been. They would have probably have to have staged some kind of commando, which would have taken more time, which would probably have resulted in no doubt casualties and so forth because of the danger of what had happened and the manpower needed. The fact that the US got involved, and believe me, they didn't do it simply because of Israel. They did it because they believe as an ally of Israel and Israel as an ally of the United States, and the fact that the two countries share vast amounts of intelligence, military, residential, retail, all the intelligence that goes hat in hat with Iran having nuclear capabilities, that's of no interest to, of course, Israel, no interest to the United States. Where did I get this? Go online. Look for information sites. You won't get it in the Bay Area because the Bay Area is worried about the Giants and burrito stands and storms in Tahoe. They had a news story in Tahoe, a significant situation with a boat capsizing and 6 people dying. Legitimate news. Overall, folks, it is so sad and pathetic that in a major metropolitan area, which has a healthy amount of Iranian Americans, Jewish people in general who have no axe to grind, who have no dog in the fight, so to speak, who are objective people who are interested and flock to whatever information site they look forward to, whether it's television, the internet itself, radio, whatever. They want to know what's going on in the world. And this is a significant news event. The United States, did you hear this? They have never dropped this kind of a bomb. They dropped 6 of them ever in the history of our military dealings. Never have they used this. Folks, we are in a different world now. We're in and we'll talk about a parallel universe. I'm not looking at sports. I could give a damn about the P. Diddy trial. It is so trivial compared to what's happening now. It is life and death. It is something to which, again, I'll say for the 5 millionth time, no news talk station in the Bay Area. Radio. No place to vent, to communicate, to talk about, to commiserate, to, I don't know, perhaps give your own opinion on what's happening. No radio, nothing. I find that absolutely repulsive. I'll keep saying it. And folks, yeah, I'm harping on it. It's not just the fact that we don't have any news, talk, radio outlets. Look at our media, what we constitute as media now. What are they talking about? If they're talking about this subject, they're relying on their own network counterparts. It's almost like them saying, you know what, we don't have a damn thing to say about this because most of us are mentally impaired and we don't know what to say. We have no reporters, and the reporters that we do have are busy frolicking around Union Square looking for tourists to ask, do you like the new weather in San Francisco? Less fog. Or going to Walnut Creek and doing a whole big to do about some kind of amusement rides taking place in a brand new park in Walnut Creek, as if that means something. Or going to Berkeley to find out the latest situation with regards to a People's Park possibility reopening. Boy, I know that's on everybody's head list today. I'm not somebody who is always bleak, 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 like everybody else. Every now and then a cheer me up story. Of course, I love that. I want that. I expect that. But it's difficult to imagine a region with what, about 10 million people, 12 million people that has nothing on this. How sad. All they do is repeat the same shit that they get from the Chronicle or ancillary sites that have no business reporting international news because they know nothing about international news. You know, before I started bitching and moaning about all this, I remember very distinctively, folks, years ago, not even that long ago, a couple of decades, 5 years, 10 years beyond that, it was always people who had really good thought, weren't crazies, complained about the fact that an area so rich with some of the things I just described, Silicon Valley, Berkeley being the birthplace of free speech movement and all that, Stanford, some of the finest universities in the world. We have nothing. Our international news coverage is abysmal. It's downright silly. Radio, at least we had outlets where we can, as I stated for earlier, we can discuss these things. I talked to somebody significant, a few people actually. I called people that used to be KGO people. They're chomping at the bit. They would love to be on the radio discussing this. And this would be absolute topic A. Lines are jammed. I always used to hear that. John Rothman, you can agree or disagree with Rothman, but he's got the credentials. He's written several books on the Middle East. Is he biased? He is. He admits it. But he can talk about it and certain subjects and analysis and provide the other side, whatever that is these days, at least give an avenue to which you, your family, your loved ones, your whatevers, a chance to discuss what is the number one news story, not just here, not just nationally, internationally. Go on the internet, type in Al Jazeera, type in Reuters, type in AP. You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to see what is life right now. I wanted to get a piece of what's taking place in Tel Aviv. I know you can't get information or any kind of visual of Tehran because the country is entirely blocked off by the assholes, still, some of whom are dead now, who still run Iran. So you can't get Tehran. But I wanted to see perhaps Tel Aviv and Haifa and Jerusalem and whatever. You can go online and you can see that. It's not very, very engrossing, but you do get a full fledged look. You even hear horns honking. There is some little, but it's out there, life in Tel Aviv. They've told people, obviously, to be vigilant. Of course, their bomb shelters are being utilized. There's still a few missiles coming from Tehran. I mentioned earlier they hit an old age place. They go after civilians, does Tehran. We won't get into that right now, but in any event, There is news. You just can't find it here. And I find it, again, I call me naive. It is unbelievable. For an area this diverse, this supposedly communications wise, the alleged cosmopolitan San Francisco Bay Area, and not a thing other than schlepping from other sites. And I find that amazing. And I continue to find it amazing. And I'm going to harp on it. And yes, I'm going to call them out, it out. Later on, I'm going to see and gauge this. But I'm going to try to do something. And those of you watching now, or those of you that have interest in this, and those of you maybe thought about commenting and maybe didn't want to, become, I don't know what's the word. I mean, it's a beautiful day outside. I know a lot of you are celebrating the onset of summer, but I know a lot of you are also very intertwined with the news. Maybe you were past KGO radio callers, and maybe you go on various sites to comment. I'm going to try to do some kind of interactive deal here later on, I hope. And I'll plug it if I do it on my Twitter X at Rich415 Media and here on YouTube, because I believe it is important. I think, and my ideas, how I feel, and I'm going to try to give you an outlet. If we don't do it, then we won't do it, but maybe we'll do it at a future time. Remember to become a paid subscriber here. It's $15 for a year. That's $1 a month plus $3, $15 a year to become a paid subscriber. If you don't want to do that, but you maybe want to make a donation, no donation is too small or too large. Go to my PayPal up on top, the right side. I take all credit cards, cash, whatever you want to do. It is greatly appreciated. And it's PayPal. You don't have to have an account with PayPal to donate. And I thank you. And I will personally thank all of you that send in some money so that you can continue to watch me and keep us going and get the information that's not BS from the so-called mainstream local media. And I appreciate your help, your support, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you.